Today we are going to be bringing all of the MMA news from this week straight to you. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to everything that you missed in MMA this week. This is where we go through every single little piece of news that you have heard of or you haven't heard of, and that's why timestamps are going to be there in the description. Pin comment down below if you'd like to skip to any particular part. We're going to talk about anything that happened in the MMA world, like something that everybody heard about that has to do with Conor McGregor, or something about a fighter getting signed that you've never heard about in your life before. We are going to cover all of it in today's video, guys. Timestamps are there if you'd like to skip to any particular part of the video. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it. Starting off with the big controversy of the week. So Dana White announced that Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3 is going to take place because, in his words, it's the right thing to do. And I have to say, I do agree with that because Valentina Shevchenko was robbed for a title, and it's just like, this whole thing sucks. I made a whole video talking about it, like the whole problem with the UFC judges like really needs to be addressed right now, because now that division is being held up by somebody who should already have the title, and now she's like, it's not like Valentina Shevchenko's getting any younger, you know what I mean? She's probably going to lose her next fight against Alexa Grasso, so she should have the belt right now. This shouldn't be a trilogy, and the whole division's getting kept up, man. But so we're gonna see this fight, and God knows when, probably in the new year, so there's an entire division held up for you, so... But that's the big news of the week. We're getting Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko, the trilogy. That doesn't need to happen. Next up, Ovince Preux got caught by USADA. He failed 2 separate tests, and he only has a 6-month suspension for some reason. There's nothing too much else to say about that, but it's not shocking. Now, guys, this next piece of news has been really making the rounds in the MMA community this week because Cyril Gane, I believe he's the number 2 contender right now in the division. Regardless, he is ducking Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich so hard. He just came out and did an interview, and he literally just flat out said he wants to fight for the title, and he's not looking to fight Sergey or Tom Aspinall, 2 guys that you could argue Sergey deserves a title fight more than Cyril Gane. To be honest with you, I think it should be Cyril Gane taking on Tom Aspinall. The winner of that takes the spot after Sergey fights the winner of Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic, which is obviously going to be obviously going to be Stipe Miocic. I said obviously going to be Jon Jones. That's how it should work. Cyril Gane does not deserve a title fight right now. He needs to win at least one more fight, especially with the way that he just fought Jon Jones. That was a pitiful performance. I don't care that it was Jon Jones. He does not deserve, and I'm a big Cyril Gane fan. I really, really am, but that's crazy to me, like that you're ducking these top contenders. That is absolutely wild. Now, guys, this next piece of news I'm actually very excited for, but not a lot of you probably know about this. So, Kaue Fernandes, who is the LFA lightweight champion, he just signed to the UFC. He is a great fighter. He did great in LFA. I love watching this guy fight, and I can't wait to see him in the UFC. I love that the UFC is taking fighters from LFA. Such an underrated organization. It's on a lot of Fridays. You guys have to check it out. It's on Fight Pass. You have Fight Pass. You have no reason not to watch this. It is crazy, the action that comes on those cards, and I cannot wait to see Fernandes perform in the UFC. So in other news, we have brand new Contender Series signings. Now, I will say that Dan Allen, the guy who arguably had the best performance there, did not get signed to the UFC, and that was absolutely nuts to see. That dude, I thought it was a shoo-in for sure. Like, I thought it was 100% that guy was going to contract. He was patient. He looked fantastic. This is a guy who, I don't care who he was fighting. If he came into the UFC, I'd be betting on that guy. He trains at AKA. He looked so good in his fight, and Dana White didn't sign him for some reason. I don't understand why. He deserved a contract more than everybody else there. And it worked out for him. I thought he was a shoo-in too. Friends with Daniel Cormier, who's friends with Dana White. Same with Islam and Khabib. We know Dana loves Khabib, so I just don't understand that entire situation. The guy with the best performance on the card didn't get signed. So anyways, the people we did get signed was Igor Da Silva, Kenan Krushik-Skui, and I apologize, I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong, Stephanie Luciano, and Shamil Gaziev. Now, Da Silva and Gaziev are the 2 that I personally would have really signed. The only person I really don't believe deserved one was Luciano, because that fight sucked, and that was she could not finish a fighter who was completely gassed out and was basically useless in that cage. So she's going to get murdered in the UFC, but other than that, I'm particularly excited to see Gaziev fight. That is going to be a very, he has the potential to become like a nice heavyweight contender. I just feel it, man. I feel it. But regardless, another great episode of the Contender Series. I'm going to be sad that it's coming to an end, man. Now, guys, get this one. UFC Noche broke records on ESPN. It is the most watched fight night of all time. It was a great card. Obviously, there was a new UFC title on the line there with Alexa Grasso, and what was really cool about it was seeing all, I don't know what you want to call it, like Noche Pride or something like that. I don't know exactly what they would call it over there, but it was so cool to see, everyone really hyping up the Mexican fighters, you know what I mean? So this was so successful. It broke records on ESPN, and Dana White said that he's going to take that specific date for UFC Noche and have it every single year for the rest of his reign. That is really cool to see. So this is an event that we can look forward to every single year. The Mexican fans were nuts. They are awesome, just like the Canadian fans. Like, like when you just go to particular places, if you go over to England too, those fans are really cool, and they just like hype up their fighters. It's just really cool to see, man. So you can add Mexico and UFC Noche to like the list of like great fans. Like Canada has amazing fans, Europe has great fans, the Irish, I don't know if you're ever going to beat Ireland though, to be honest with you. So but like, that's really cool to see. So I love when the UFC does well, because obviously that means selfishly more views for the channel. That means that the UFC is doing great. We can get more events. Maybe they'll keep signing with ESPN. Like, this is just a great thing to see all around if you're a fight fan. And now, guys, the biggest news, in my opinion, or at least like the news that I'm particularly looking forward to the most, Paul Felder. The rumors of his return is true. He was in the USADA pool. He's now returning to UFC. He's going to get one more fight booked, and it's going to be at UFC 300. I don't know if the UFC themselves said that they're going to book Paul Felder at UFC 300, but Paul Felder wants to be on UFC 300. I see all of the fans saying book Paul Felder versus Jim Miller. Both of them retire. Both of them have their last fight on UFC 300. I have been a big supporter of Jim Miller being on UFC 300 because he got a win on UFC 100 and UFC 200. End the career on UFC 300. That would be a perfect fairy tale ending for him. But I hate this and I love it at the same time, because I am such a big fan of both Jim Miller and Paul Felder. So if these two started clashing, man, I would just like tear my guts out on who to cheer for, because these two are nothing but like stand up, respectable guys in the entire history of the organization. I would have to cheer for Jim Miller though, just to have that fairy tale ending. But I just do not want to be in a place where I have to cheer against Paul Felder. I really don't. I love that guy. I love what he does. I love the way he carries himself. It's just these two fighters are legends of the sport. I don't want to see them fight each other, man. I don't. Book them both on UFC 300. Book them against somebody I don't care about so I can cheer for them. But regardless, in all honesty, booking these two together would make for an absolute banger of a UFC 300 fight. I would hate to love to see it. You know what I mean there? All right, guys, before I get you out of here, though, I have all of the fight announcements for this weekend. Guys, there have been some crazy fight announcements. I'm sure you heard the big ones, to be honest with you. So we'll start off with a smaller fight, McParkin versus Kaue Machado on November 18th. David Onama's returning against Lucas Alexander on November 4th, which is a great fight. Daniel Lacerda versus Edgar Chairez is having a rematch on October 14th, a fight that we all would like to see, especially if like you paid attention to your hardcore MMA fan, which I would imagine you are if you're watching the channel now. This next one isn't official, but this is a fight that Dana White wants to do, and that's Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot. This is another reason why the division's being held up by Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko, just because of Mike Bell. This fight should not be happening. Aaron Blanchfield should be fighting Valentina Shevchenko, and I would like to see Blanchfield steamroll her way through the title. Now, we have to wait until the end of next year, probably, to see this, because Aaron's just going to steamroll Manon. Like, that's not even going to be a close fight, and then Aaron's going to have to sit out, and she's going to have to wait for this rematch to happen, which shouldn't even be happening. And, like, man, you were finally getting some, like, progress in the division. It was finally starting to get exciting, but now we're having this rematch that nobody wants to see again. Now, speaking of fights that nobody wants to see, though, Miesha Tate is back against Julia Avila, and I shouldn't say that nobody wants to see, because Miesha Tate has a lot of SIMPs, you know what I mean? But, man, that, you know what? I'm okay with it, because that's free money for me. I'm going to be betting against Miesha Tate. Anyways, the biggest fights. Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira, the UFC vacant light heavyweight title, and it is the co-main event to John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. If I miss this card, I'm going to blow my brains out, dude. Oh my god, that is an amazing fight. It's another one of those positions I'm in where I really like both guys, and but I think I like Yuri just a little bit more, man. I like him a little bit more. So I don't want to be put in a spot where I have to cheer against Team Glover, though. That's like, it's the right fight to make, but I hate that I'm going to have to cheer against one of these guys. Regardless, that's going to be a great fight. I don't know how that one's going to go, but speaking of fights, I don't know how it's going to go. The next fight that we got announced was Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Finally, about time. These guys were supposed to fight in like August. That is nuts. I hope Colby can do it. That would be perfect for him. I don't want to see him lose another title fight. I'm a big fan of Colby Covington, so like it's not, I don't dislike Leon Edwards or anything. I just like would love to see Colby get that title. And now we also have another title fight. Alejandro Pantoja taking on Brandon Morrival again on December 16th, and I forgot to mention that is the same date of Edwards versus Covington. So this is also an amazing matchup. I do think everyone's counting out Royval in this fight. I really do, and I understand why. I get it, okay? but Rival's been looking real good. And for the final fight, we have just a little fight. It's Punahele Soriano versus Dustin Stoltzfus on December 2nd. So guys, that was some great fight announcements. Oh my god, like that is, I cannot wait for the end of the year with matchups, man. And that's just the UFC. One has so much stuff going on. Bellator has so much stuff going on. LFA has great fights going on. Like, this last quarter of the year is going to be insane. I was sad about the Contender series coming to an end, but man, we have so many events to look forward to. Like MMA, it is crazy how mainstream MMA is becoming and how many events are going on. Like, I would have killed to have this years ago, you know what I mean? So, but regardless, I'm glad that we're having it now. It is a great time to be an MMA fan, guys. Great fight announcements this time. All right, guys, last thing I want to say before I get you out of here, the fights to watch this weekend. So, we have LFA, we have UFC, we have Bellator. That's what I'm going to be watching, and Bellator is on in the AM because I believe they're fighting in Dublin. If not, they're fighting somewhere around Dublin, but regardless, we have fights going on the entire day Friday, which is absolutely nuts, and I'm so excited for it. I'm sad that, like, Bellator is going on while I work, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but I'm going to hopefully check it out. Regardless, LFA is going to be on at night. That is great. Like, I just love, like, when they have, like, the multiple organizations going on, that you'll be able to watch fights all day. That is an awesome thing to happen. And, of course, on Saturday, we have a great UFC Fight Night. You can't miss this card, guys. You cannot miss anything that's been going on this weekend. It is Bellator 299 too. So that means we have Bellator 300 to look forward to. 300 Bellator events. I'm just so excited for, like, everything that's coming in. Next week, you have one championship on. Man, like I said, guys, I cannot wait for the last quarter of this year. But guys, with that being said, that is all the MMA news from this week that I have for you today. If you are new here, we have this video every single Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. But if you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out right here. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.